Joining us now to continue our conversation on this huge story is criminal defense attorney Geoffrey Nathan, Skyping into us from Boston. And Jeff, it's great to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right, so the shooter is dead, and some folks might be wondering, why do police need to figure out what took place in those 2 hours leading up to the killing?
Because it's hard to fathom that this individual was able to carry out these horrific acts as a sole actor, and consequently the investigation is going to surround who helped him, who else participated, and whether or not there was any terrorism involved that propped up his ability to execute these two of New York's finest.
Now, as a criminal defense attorney, I'm sure you see this a lot in your work, but in this case, which we should clarify you're not involved with, but in this case, how do you see those social media posts playing a role in the investigation, and how will cops look at those in the future from other folks through this prism?
Well, police do use social media and rely upon it heavily when they're backtracking and looking to create a motive for a crime and or to rule out other actors. And as a consequence, the postings are huge in this particular matter.
Now, we've also seen some of this video of folks in the street chanting that they want to see cops dead. And also police found footage on Brinsley's phone of a protest that he watched. There has been some discussion, too, about Michael Brown's stepfather, who said burn the blank down, talking about Ferguson after this. How much legal trouble could these folks be in when they're out there on the street chanting what some folks might consider incendiary threats?
Well, I mean, individuals could be looked at for the charge of incitement to riot, and your First Amendment right to freedom of expression does not include, for example, the right to say that there's a fire in a movie cinema causing a stampede when there's no fire. So constitutionally, it's these protesters are really walking a very thin line, in my humble opinion.
And what would it take to actually, have a charge filed here against anybody? These folks are recorded on videotape shouting these things. You would think that might be enough to a layperson like myself to actually bring charges against somebody now that we've had these types of assassinations.
Yeah, but conversely, look, this is the United States, and we have the right to express ourselves. This isn't
right, and you can burn a flag, but saying you want to see cops dead, I think a lot of folks would argue that
protected. It is heinousness of epic proportions to even think about, let alone to say in public. But we're a free society, sir.
I agree with you 100% there, but as you mentioned, there's a thin line here sometimes that these protesters are trying to walk. Where does that break down, in your opinion?
It breaks down as to when you as a protester are causing irreversible harm to the general public. And in that instance, if that happens and there's material harm as a result of these protests, then I think some prosecutors are going to have to look into, say, look, who's organizing these protests? What's their real intention? And are they fostering for good, or is it evil? And if they just discern that they have evil intent, then there's a possibility of some charges being brought down in regards to this matter.
Yeah, but these protests and causing trouble when they really don't have any interest other than just simply causing trouble. Geoffrey Nathan, we're going to continue our conversation because we got a couple other things to talk about, namely the Bowe Bergdahl investigation right now. Bowe Bergdahl under the microscope of the U.S. military. Geoffrey Nathan Skyping into us from Boston. He's going to stick around. We appreciate you sticking around. We know everybody's home for Christmas now. Great time to watch Newsmax TV. We've got a lot more to come here on the show. Geoffrey Nathan coming back. We're going to talk about Bowe Bergdahl right after this short commercial break. Rejoining us now to discuss this and what's at stake for Bergdahl, criminal defense attorney Geoffrey Nathan. Geoffrey, thanks for being with us.
Great.
Well, we know it's different in the military judicial system, the criminal justice system in the military, but there has been so much discussion about Bowe Bergdahl, some of his platoon mates out in the media saying that he deserted. Do you think that Bowe Bergdahl can get a fair shot here if he is in fact court-martialed?
He'll get a fair shot, the fairest that the military can provide for what happened. And in those circumstances, that shot is the right to a jury trial comprised of enlisted individuals on his base after the charges have been referred to the convening authority, which would then submit them to a tribunal, which consists of just one hearings officer that would hear the the initial charges and then render a decision as to whether to move forward for trial.
And because, as you know, there are folks out there who say Bowe Bergdahl shouldn't get a fair shot. He deserted his post. He should get what he has coming to him. But from what you're seeing at this point, there's been such a fervor in the public. Is there a responsibility for the military to have this court-martial, so at least, if not during the court-martial, afterwards, there's some transparency as to what took place in terms of the investigation?
Well, they're either going to broom this under the table. That's imminently possible. Look, the reasons being that he's already done 5 years in jail, and it wasn't just jail. He was held by the Taliban and tortured for 5 years for the decisions that he made, which is evidently to walk off the base. So transparency, I mean, yes, a trial may be in the public's best interest. Those are decisions that the Army will have to make.
Well, I don't know what actually took place while he was at the hands of the Taliban. Some folks say he wasn't tortured, but, you know, that's maybe a discussion for a different day. What would this, how do you think those years in captivity, I guess I should ask you, how does that play as they're trying to weigh what took place? A lot of mental anguish, even if he wasn't tortured, very difficult to be away from anyone's family for that period of time. Maybe a lot of regret if he did, in fact, make that decision to walk off the base. How much does that weigh in the decision here?
Well, what he went through when he went back to the United States was a process of reorientation, re-education, and assimilation. Whether or not he's fully assimilated now really isn't the issue. The issue is, did he go AWOL, absent without leave? Or in the alternative, did he desert? Is there a misdemeanor here or is there a felony? And that's really what the Army's looking at in this matter.
And do you think the public outcry, or the public rather, will accept whatever the results are of this trial, again, because there's been so much discussion, and almost as if this has been tried in the court of public opinion before Bergdahl gets his day in a court-martial?
Well, the public has to understand that we get little tidbits of information here. Some of us are privy to more information than others, as in this particular matter with myself. But I can just tell you that the jury's verdict is final in this matter when it goes to trial, if it goes to trial, and no one should second guess a jury in either a military convening authority context or in the federal courts in America, wherever it may be.
Well, maybe they shouldn't, but we know they probably will, but we'll have to leave that there. Geoff Nathan, thanks so much for being with us. Happy holidays, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, and a quick note to everybody at home. The Dow Jones Industrial Average now up over 18,000 points today. A new record there and some good financial information. We'll keep track of all of it. Come back. America's Forum continues right after this.